Start with Eric in the back and then go to Adam.
Coach Heupel said yesterday that the linebackers were, one of the most improved units on the entire team. So from your perspective, how's that unit grown in fall camp, especially getting some guys back in the rotation?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we have depth right now. Obviously when we got here in the spring, we had guys that were banged up, trying to learn a new system, so having some transfers in and obviously getting some guys healthy is giving those guys the ability to compete better. It's a lot more urgency, within the room. Still some things that obviously we want to do better, but overall I'm pleased with the depth that we're developing, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Adam Sparks, Knox News. In game planning, is it more about, do you think it's more important to scout your opponent and see what's best against that opponent, or more to figure out what you're comfortable with, what scheme is your strength, what 15 guys are your strength? Which one of those do you usually go toward?
Yeah, I think particularly with the first game, I think it's more, what do we do well, and being able to play to our strengths and making sure our guys understand very clearly, what we're trying to get done. Obviously your first opponent, particularly if they're a team that's returning a lot of starters, you have an idea what you think you may get, but at the end of the day, it's a new season. I'm sure those guys have worked on some different things. So we want to just make sure that we understand what we're trying to get done to give us the best opportunity to succeed.
Brent and Jimmy.
A little bit of, a follow-up to that without giving away your scheme. What do you feel like this unit is doing well? What do you think you guys do well right now where you are defensively?
Yeah, as cliche as it may sound, I think the guys are playing extremely hard. I think at the end of the day, we're doing a better job of understanding our fits and responsibilities within, every package that we have. Now, exactly which package we run the most, be determined on who we're playing and, what they present, the challenges and the opportunities we have. But at the end of the day, I think for us right now, we're just doing a better job overall executing and playing extremely hard.
Two things. Do you like where you are with your players understanding your defensive scheme? And secondly, how many players do you feel comfortable with that you would identify as good pass rushers?
Yeah, I feel good, with the guys in terms of the grasp that they have with our defense, and obviously, doing it under the lights and doing it in practice, it's another step to be taken. But at the end of the day, thus far I feel really good what we're doing. As far as pass rushers go, I think it's still a work in progress. We feel like we have some guys up front, that have taken some strides in that way. But we also feel like, if we need to generate some more pass rush, we have different ways to get that done.
Train and Rob.
When you look at this week and what you're trying to do with the defense, it's going to be, turn into game week on Saturday. Is it still a lot more installing what you guys are trying to do right now before you set up for Bowling Green? How's the week play out? What is it like for you?
Yeah, you kind of, I think it's always different. I can speak for us. Right now, we're really finishing up, the things that we had. We had a couple things on deck that we still wanted to make sure we took a look at. But ultimately, we're just trying to game plan, what kind of wrinkles will we have within the system or within the plays that we already have in. But, putting in a whole new package and things of that nature, I don't see us doing that at this point.
Coach, cornerback is one of those positions that got a lot more competitive after the spring with the addition of your transfers. Just what have you seen from a guy like Alante Taylor? And is there a different sense of urgency now that the competition has stepped up with the guys you've added?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's, obviously being an older guy, I think he had pretty good urgency from the beginning. But I think anytime you add, other guys into the mix and those guys continue to push and continue to work, I think it becomes contagious. But, Alante is a guy who's always had great work ethic. He's worked extremely hard, during the off season. You saw the fruits of that during camp, and we're hoping that, he'll take even another step, going into the season.
Vincent Patrick.
Coach, what's tackling look like in 2021? Coming off of last year where the guys didn't have a lot of preseason work for that, and then, obviously teaching the technique right with the potential for targeting and things like that. How do you guys work tackling?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time, talking about body position and, obviously your feet and making sure you're keeping your face out of it. Safety first. I think we all know that, and I think, to be honest with you, over the last, 5 years or so, I think kids have gotten better because the coaches have gotten better teaching. teaching it. But ultimately, again, when you start tackling and tackling at a high speed when the lights come on, you hope the kids will revert back to their training because, we're not tackling live every day. It's more footwork, hand placement, head placement. But as the lights come on and, we get more opportunities to do it, hopefully we'll tackle even better. But to your point for your question, I think we've done a good job of emphasizing, safety first, and we'll like to see what happens, obviously, Thursday night, which I think those guys will, protect themselves and obviously our opponent.
Coach, you talked about the linebackers a little bit earlier. With so many new guys, how have you guys gone about the process of finding the signal caller, the quarterback of the defense, so to speak? Who are some guys you feel comfortable kind of giving that mantle to?
Yeah. We put a lot on our linebackers, to understand, obviously, being able to help set the front and help, obviously reiterate, what we're trying to get done to the front, obviously from the back to the front. Those guys have been great with it, to be quite honest with you. All those guys get their chances, whether it's our Mike or our Will. Everyone has a certain level of communication, that they have to have within our defense. But, it's still a work in progress. But I think to this point, Coach BJ's done a great job of, staying on top of those guys to the point where, I don't know that we're necessarily there yet, but I think we're head and shoulders where we are right now in terms of where we were in the spring.
West and Adam.
When you look at, speaking of some of those linebackers, there's a couple guys who are in spots for that, or competition for that rotation, I guess, would be, Solon Page III and Pat Garland. Page is a fifth-year guy maybe who hadn't played a whole lot. Garland's a guy who's a former walk-on. What have you seen from each of those guys individually to kind of keep themselves in this mix here?
Yeah, both of those guys have shown flashes. I think just like with anything, the older guy, he's had really good poise. He hadn't played a lot of snaps in the game, but, he's obviously had some special teams reps, and he's gotten better from the spring to the fall. Pack, he's a kid who obviously transitioned, from a defensive back to a linebacker, and I think, for the most part, you can see his athleticism because of his background. He's just, again, working hard, daily to put it all together, and become a well-rounded linebacker, so to speak. But I like him. I like both of those guys, to be honest. I think at the end of the day, they're both going to contribute, they're both going to help, Tennessee this year.
I'm sure you'd like guys out there that are good in every situation. But what's your philosophy of using specialty situational guys that have a clear-cut strength and weakness, and they're only going to get 10 snaps in a game?
Yeah, I think that's vital to anything. You try to identify, what each and every one of these kids bring to the table. What are their strengths, what are their liabilities. If you have a legitimate pass rusher or a guy who's really good in coverage at a defensive back, when the time is right, you want to showcase him. So, yeah, if you can develop a role on this defense and you can help us win, we'll find it. We'll develop and give you a chance to showcase it.
Eric and Brent.
How many cornerbacks right now do you envision, being ready to go out there and play some quality snaps?
Yeah, that's probably a tough question. I think it's a fluid situation. We're still, trying to figure that out. We feel like we obviously have 3 guys that we think will play a considerable amount of reps, and we have a couple guys that are pushing for that 4th spot, and even that 5th spot. So, we have different packages, obviously, that, all of those guys will have opportunities. But in terms of going with that first unit or that first rotation, we feel pretty good about, 3 or 4 guys. But, who they are in terms of that 4th and 5th guy, is still a work in progress.
Staying in the secondary, where are you at nickel or the star? How fluid is that competition? How settled are you at that spot right now?
Yeah, we feel good about our first one, out there. We have a strong battle going right now with the 2nd and 3rd spot. Theo's done a great job for us all camp, extremely athletic, for his size, and does a great job of understanding schematically, what we're trying to accomplish. And then we got a couple guys behind him that are really having really good, strong camp, and we'll kind of figure this thing out the next day or so, who'll be the next guy in.
Jimmy and Rob.
A couple things. First, what have you seen out of Juwan Mitchell?
Yeah, Ju's, he's a go-go guy, goes extremely hard. He's starting to settle in, how we do things and how we go about our business. But he's a football player. He loves to play. When he's between those lines, he's a physical kid. Probably runs a little bit better than we thought on tape. So we're excited to see what he does on Thursday. But he's been a guy who's playing really hard for us and playing fast. He looks like a linebacker.
And secondly, kind of follow up on Vince's question. There are times I'm watching the game and I'm like, they call targeting, and I'm like, what was the guy supposed to do?
Yeah.
Are there times when you think targeting's unavoidable, or do you think, no, you needed to coach it better, the player needed to adjust better? How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough. Refs have a tough job, but at the end of the day, if they're going to err, they're always going to err on safety, which, for us in this game of football, we all want guys to, be able to go home after and see their loved ones. So, I play defensive back, I understand how hard it is, but at the end of the day, we're going to do what's best for the game of football, so we're going to try to teach it the right way, and hopefully we can execute it the right way and, let the chips fall where they may.
Coach, what kind of camp has Omari Thomas had? Does he look like he's ready to be a guy that just played a little bit as a freshman?
Who was that again? I'm sorry.
Omari.
Oh, Omari, Big O, yeah.
Is he ready to take that jump from being somebody who was spot duty last year and into the rotation now, do you think?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. O's worked really hard, but I think our whole front, has worked hard. Coach Gardner's done a nice job, continue to push those guys and get them going. And, it's going to be a little bit, by committee up there. And, for us to play, at the level that we all want to play at, we're going to need to be good up front. And it might have to be by committee. So O's part of that mix. He's working hard. How much of a role he carves out, I think is yet to be determined, like it is with a lot of those guys up front.
Trey and Ryan.
You talked about earlier about the defensive line, kind of wanting to get a little bit more out of that group. When you look at that defensive line right now, how many guys do you see in rotation at that spot, any spot on the defensive line? And then also, what is it about what they need to accomplish over the next week getting ready for Bowling Green?
Yeah, I mean, again, just stay in the process. And I know that's cliche, but the reality of it is we're still working, we're finishing up, just playing hard. How many guys we play? As many as earn an opportunity, so you get what you earn. Again, understanding big picture-wise, for us to play at a high level, we're going to need to be able to rotate guys. Now, we ain't rotating guys if they're not ready to play at the standard that we've established. But the way I see it right now, Coach Gardner's doing a good job of developing not just our first group, but the second group, and hopefully even some of the third group, have an opportunity to play. But at the end of the day, no different for the D-line, linebackers, defensive backs. You get what you earn, and how do you earn it, through your performance, not just one day, but the consistency, your daily approach. And I think Big O and the rest of those D-linemen, I think those guys have bought into that, and I think they're working extremely hard to make sure that they earn the right to step between those lines and, take the field.
Ryan.
We talked about the competition at cornerback. How have those transfers looked back there, Turnage and Haddon, and how have they gotten up to speed? And has either of those guys put themselves in position to play right off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, they're still fighting and pushing and clawing and scratching. I think the thing that they've afforded us right now is some flexibility. Being able to play inside, being able to play outside, being able to move some different guys around. So, we're pleased that they're here. Those guys will carve out some sort of role, whether it be a starter, whether it be a backup. Again, I think that's yet to be determined. But ultimately, the fact that they're here, they've already made us better.
Last question to me.
What have you seen specifically from DJ Terry in camp?
Yeah, power, power and strength. We knew, he was a kid that played hard on tape, and he hasn't disappointed. He's a physical kid, he's big. He's obviously learning our system and how we go about our business, but we're pleased with him. I mean, you talk about a wonderful kid, a kid who wants to do right, who wants to be great. He takes coaching, so I'm excited for him. I'm really looking forward to watching him play and help this defense win.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.